The Long Way Home, Chapter 13, The Fury of Kin. Explosives threw shards of slate through the air of the city of Jeruz Nuva, on the planet of Jeruz Trenta, in deadly sprays. Pirates, slavers, traffickers were cut into ribbons, while the shards were deflected harmlessly by RNI assault pattern power armor as they advanced deeper into the subterranean pirate base. Terrans ought to know better than anybody the consequences of touching the Star Sailor vessel. Colonel Maxwell, the loyal George, sent a slug of ferrous material spinning at supersonic speed through yet another pirate highlighted by his helmet's HUD, before the dust had even begun to settle. Terrans, more than anybody, should have known better than to touch the blood of one of the lost boys. Maybe they did know better. Not a one of the pirates had been interested in surrender, after all. They all knew what the Republic did to slavers and child abusers. This wasn't necessarily a problem for Colonel George's operation, since data seized from the pirates' computers or devices would yield better information than interrogation, most likely. However, Navy Command wanted at least a couple of the leaders taken alive for interrogation, and to make the usual example of slavers. The leaders, however, hadn't seen fit to take field and fight. Likely, the little task force from the Second Star Rapid Response Group would do the actual capturing. Slavers were universally cowardly, and would be trying to flee as they sent the fools stupid enough to give them their loyalty into the teeth of the lost boys in their fury. It didn't matter to Maxwell, the loyal. What mattered was snatching at this lead before the trail to his son when it called. His fire squad swarmed down the tunnel behind him like death itself, all speed and fury. They didn't want to give the pirates time to do more than grab weapons, which was bad enough in Colonel George's view. His power-armored foot sent a shoddily built plywood door flying off its hinges into the cavern chamber behind in splinters. He grinned behind his helmet spaceplate as the HUD displayed a facial recognition match on a sallow-skinned, pot-bellied, greasy-haired human man wearing little more than a shabby robe on one of its pirates' tech experts. Hello, password cache, he thought, as he darted in to take the man's wrist in a crushing power armor fist to spoil his suicidal shot. A pistol clattered to the stony ground. The pirate cried out in pain, and there was a cracking crunching from beneath Maxwell's, the loyal's, fist. "You've made several poor choices," he growled at the unlucky alive captive. In orbit, Captain Matthias the Gentleman George stood at his command post. The men liked it better when he stood, and he could still see everything he needed from here. Just so. He could see on his command displays that a few dozen personnel craft were launching from relatively concentrated area on the planet below. He sipped his espresso and waited for the sensor officer to announce the detection. The men liked it better when he let them call their information out. "Multiple launches detected," the junior lieutenant called. "Trajectory indicates they're headed for MSD. Planetary says they didn't wait for permission or file their destination," the communications officer announced. "Gentlemen," Captain George said mildly, "we have a bet to win. Let's make sure that we catch more fish than the other 3 ships, yes?" Nicer came a resounding cheer of the Rufio came to life beneath his feet. Just because he was a gentleman didn't mean that he wouldn't give these pirates a thrashing for touching his niece and nephew, not to mention one of the clan's ships. Sergeant Padre Benai George gathered his squad of shipboard troopers of the fighting pixies about himself, clad only in their under-armor uniforms under the blank gaze of their boarding pattern power armor blank faceplates. He didn't say a word. His squad knew the routine. A brother slid his arm over Sergeant George's shoulder on one side and another on his opposite, and he draped the sanguine-skinned arms across the fur-covered nape on one side and the ebony neck on the other. He bowed his head and began, "Oh, Father, once again we will step into battle and make manifest the fury of the Republic. Her ships have been violated, her people killed, and her very children stolen away. And it falls to us, her sons, to bring swift retribution to those who violate her civilians. Grant us the wisdom to wield and to temper this fury, O Lord, that we do not find ourselves consumed by it, that we may ensure that the Spirit protects the innocent, that the guilty may receive justice no greater than their due. Grant us the courage, O Lord, to face the wicked in their strength, to restrain our might when needful, to unleash our rage when required. Grant us clear eyes and clearer minds, O Lord, for children depend on our works this day. Amen." "Amen," the squad echoed before they broke apart and started suiting up. He carried the name George. He carried the name though his blood came from other than terror. His line of the family was brought into the fold by George ethos of service. Thus his line owed the name the most. He couldn't let them down. Light years away, Sire Reeve Captain Yevdril Druxy felt the furious rumble of the Justice as a blade in a clenched fist's reactor and thrust systems through his command chair. It had been decades since any had dared touch a ship of the fleet's, centuries if one discounted the Exarch Dominion War. This was mainly due to the alliance between the Starsailors and the Republic, but the other nations had strong incentives to keep the fleets invalid due to how vital the fleets were in international trade and travel. Then again, the Reeves and Justicars of the fleets themselves did more to quell the interstellar criminal element than most local forces. The war had taught the Starsailors to keep their blades sharp, however, and often they would seek battle alongside the Republic or CIP forces against pirates. Such was this operation, an assault against the major pirate stronghold, a station hidden in the gases of the gas giant's high atmosphere. There were 5 other Reeves in this task force, along with 2 large battleships and their escorts sent by one of the more proactive coalition governments. It was bad enough the fleets had been touched, but his own family had been taken. By oath and honor, he would end this threat and bring his own home safely. In orbit over Cleveland Podia, Lieutenant Commander Dr. Bridget Fixit George stood in one of the operating rooms aboard a hospital ship, the Joseph Lister, working on an unconscious mountain of a man. The pirates had managed to breach his armor, and now she was delicately picking shrapnel out of his abdomen. R&I drop troopers like him were always eager to get back into the fight, and she was always more than happy to accommodate them, so long as their injuries didn't require intensive recovery periods. Luckily for Mr. Mountain beneath her gentle ministrations, she'd get patched him up and back in the fight within the week. After all, he'd gotten injured in the search for her son. Light years away, en route to Sanctuary, among the Startides we sing, Rear Admiral Upper Half retired the Hammer Irish George strode down the corridor leading to the ship's armory. She had a suspicion to what she might find there, and before she even saw who was collected amongst the collection of various outdated models of boarding pattern, assault pattern, and stealth pattern armor, along with an impressive collection of firearms, she demanded, "And just what do you boys think you're doing?" Gunnery Sergeant retired Samwise Cookie George jumped just like when she'd caught him trying to steal sweets as a boy, and said, "Nothing, Ma." "Easy, son." Major General retired Lawrence the Anvil George said mildly as he continued checking over his old service rifle as if he wasn't caught red-handed. "We're getting prepared, dear." "Don't you dare me. The Wee Sing is a passenger liner, and we are not sailing her into action." The matron fairly snarled. "Aye, we're not," her husband agreed with her, "but we are preparing our gear." Belatedly, she ran her eyes over the people gathered there and saw that every one of her sons, not still in service, and 2 of her daughters were checking weapons, power armor, and other gear, as if getting ready to embark on a mission. "Explain," she ordered the room at large. "Ma," Corporal Retired Tyre the Bull George began placatingly, "we really called Uncle Brickstrel. We're going to join him on the Among the Startides who rage for a spell, just until we get Jason back. And none of you thought to consult with me?" she demanded of them hotly. "Mama," Specialist Retired Emily Sawbones Jackson said in effectively soothing tones, "we knew you'd want to go, but you'd have to stay with the Wee Sing." "And what makes you think that I will?" the matron demanded. "Because it is your duty to protect the Wee Sing," her husband mildly reminded her. "If any of you get killed," she fumed as she wagged a finger in the general directions, "I'll kill all the lot of you." "Aye, ma'am," they somberly replied. End of chapter. I'd greatly like to thank our Tier 5 channel members, Casper Arnholt, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.